Uh-huh.
Okay. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Pastor Tony, and this is my friend John DeHuse. He's the CFO, the Chair of Finance of our church. And we'd like to talk with you a little bit today. We know that you're a person that loves Montgomery United Methodist Church, and we'd like to share a little bit about our vision with you. John, could you tell us a little bit about your vision for our wonderful church?
Certainly. You know, I look at our church as a light on a hill. We shine out God's love, Jesus' grace unto the world. Without that, you know, we would not be here. So it's that love of Jesus that we're sharing out to the world. And we do not want to hide our light under a bushel, okay? We want to be able to shine that light across the world. And to do that, one of the things we need is a very, very strong financial base. And so the other vision, or the other part of the vision, is that we have this strong financial base that allows us to have very good pastors like Pastor Tony, the staff to support him, the choir. All of that requires us to have that financial base, and that financial base allows the vision of Jesus' love to shine out into the world.
That's great, John. Thank you very much. I share that vision too. Montgomery United Methodist Church is a very special place. I feel surrounded by the most wonderful people here, and we are out to preserve God's kingdom on earth. And what's God's kingdom? It's the community of love. And so, John, you talked about a solid financial base. We want to make sure that our church can proceed undistracted to a good, solid spiritual future. What are some of the challenges that are facing us right now?
So, Pastor Tony, it goes without saying that the last couple of years have been a very challenging time, not just for our church, but for all the churches, particularly here in New Jersey. We've suffered through the pandemic. We've suffered through closures. We've had all sorts of issues that have impacted us. The thing that I think is very important for people to understand is that we have reoccurring expenses. Health care, certainly health care, is an important thing to be able to have with our staff. Pension, insurance, both on the church as well as on the parsonage. All of these reoccurring expenses are something that we have to step forward and pay. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, that we are responsible for these expenses.
So what's happened over the last few years, as I understand it, John, is that we have postponed these expenses because the conference has helped us by fronting the cost of these things and assumed that we would pay them back in time. Is that about right?
That's correct. The conference has a master plan for these different aspects of these recurring expenses, and they front the money, and then we as a congregation pay the conference back. We're legally responsible, not only legally, but morally responsible to pay these expenses. Without paying these expenses, then, they just accrue and they become a debt. And we don't want that. To be in debt impacts our vision. It impacts us to being able to share Jesus' love out to the world. We have this moral and legal obligation to repay the conference for their fronting of this money. And if you think about it, we're kind of like a double-decker bus, right? You've got if you've ever been to London, you've seen those nice red double-decker buses that roam around the city. And so we have two layers that we have to think about as we progress to the future here. The first layer we have to think about is the first floor of the bus. What is that first floor of the bus? Well, It's our pledges, our estimates of giving. And we'll talk about this more next week, but estimates of giving help us to understand how the church is going to do in the future. The second level of the bus, though, is much more immediate, and that is our current responsibilities, our current moral obligations to the conference. We need to pay these reoccurring expenses that I mentioned before every year. And so we have an obligation to do that. This year, we have not been able to do that and to the full extent that that we're responsible for. We are looking at a $45,000 responsibility that we have to cover this year. So let me just stop here, see if you have any other thoughts you might share on that.
Yeah, John, I appreciate that. So the second floor of the bus is the debt that we have right now, the thing that is important to pay. Is that about right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's about $45,000, which seems like a lot, but do you think we can do it?
Absolutely. This is a very, very generous congregation, a very generous people. They have stepped up before. I'm sure that they will step up now. I'm sure they'll step up in the future. I have no qualms in saying that we're going to make this. I believe in my heart that if we all work together, that we will be able to actually not only get to the 45, but exceed it. We should think about exceeding this money. It just makes no sense to say, oh, you know, I'm just going to get to 45,000. Let's actually think about going higher. People have already started giving. Just today, Pastor Tony, I checked with the counters. We've, just for today, brought in $7,400 towards Bridge the Gap campaign, which is what we're calling the second level of the bus.
Wow. And so we're about 10% of the way there?
At least. At least.
That's very encouraging, John. So we all need to step up. I know I've made my contribution over the internet at our donate button on the website, and I feel good about it. I feel good about helping this campaign, and I hope you do too. John, I believe that if we all work together, we can turn this situation around and turn it from a difficulty to a triumph. John, let me ask you a question. Folks are going to be making their estimate of giving pledges on the Consecration Sunday, the 19th of November. And what about the second level of the bus? What about the Bridge the Gap? Do they have to wait until the 19th to make their contribution?
Absolutely not. Please start making your contribution now. You can go to the web, as Pastor Tony said, the website, the donate page is already set up. There's a little tile there that says Bridge the Gap. Feel free to do it at any time. That site is open 24/7, okay? If you don't want to give it in through the website, there's always the U.S. mail. Even more importantly, there's ability to come to church next Sunday and drop it off in the offering plate. However, let me ask one simple request. If you are going to send it in through the U.S. mail, or you're going to come to church and drop it off in the offering envelope, please, 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 in the memo section of your check, write Bridge the Gap. If you're going to put it in an envelope, on the outside of the envelope, you can also write Bridge the Gap. If by some chance you're going to give cash, please put that in the envelope, put your name on the envelope, and put Bridge the Gap so that everybody gets proper credit. Without identification as to who's giving it or what it's for, we just assume that it goes into the general fund. I want to also step back, though, on one point here about Consecration Sunday. Pastor Tony said that we're going to, Consecration Sunday, we're going to deal with consecrate our pledges, but we're also going to consecrate the money for the Bridge the Gap campaign. So we will actually consecrate both of those on that Sunday.
Thanks, John. Also, I'd like to mention that we have a discussion about a matching gift. One of our donors may be considering a matching gift, and we're going to have more details about that in the future. But for now, John, I want to thank you so much for this interview and for giving all this wonderful work to the church and your faithfulness in doing so. And I want to thank all of you who are considering a gift to the Bridge the Gap Fund. Please prayerfully consider what the Lord is asking you to do. Thanks for taking the time with us. John, I thank you so much.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
Pastor Tony.
You're welcome. God bless you, and thanks for listening.